I always thought the universe would give me some kind of warning before my life collapsed. Some whisper in the dark, some uneasy feeling crawling under my skin. But nothing prepared me for the morning I realized my family had been quietly chiseling me out of their lives for years, waiting for the perfect moment to push me off the edge. That moment arrived on my 17th birthday, just before sunrise, in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Denver, a place that always felt too polished. Too quiet, too staged, like a set built for a family that didn't include me. I woke up that morning expecting nothing. No cake. No cheap balloon taped to my door. No happy birthday, kid. That had never been our style. Silence was the only gift my parents ever gave me consistently. But what I did not expect, what I never could have prepared for, was that they had a different kind of present planned. One that would cut through me sharper than any cruel word they had ever spit at me. They were kicking me out. The message came from my mom, first Carolyn, though she insisted everyone call her Carrie, like she was trying to erase any trace of aging. She opened my bedroom door without knocking, the hallway light carving harsh shapes across her face. "Leo," she said, voice flat, "come to the living room. We need to talk." She didn't say birthday. Not even by accident. My dad, Thomas, stood behind her, arms crossed, jaw tight, as if the act of looking at me irritated him. I followed them downstairs, half asleep, half anxious. My instinct told me something was wrong. My instincts were right. Waiting. At the bottom of the stairs was a stack of folded cardboard boxes, a roll of tape, okay, and a black trash bag. "Start packing," my dad said without looking at me. I blinked. "Packing for what?" "It's for moving," he replied, annoyance dripping from his voice like it was obvious like this was a plan I'd been part of. My heartbeat stuttered. "Moving where?" "To your Uncle Raymond's," Mom said. "He'll take you in. You'll have a room there." The room spun. "Why? What happened?" Mom exchanged a glance with Dad. They both looked irritated, like I was somehow the inconvenience in their plan. "It's not about you," she began, which was always a sign that it absolutely was. "It's about space," Dad cut in. "More bluntly, this house only has 4 bedrooms. Leo, you know that?" "Yes." "And?" said, though a sick feeling was already blooming in my chest. Mom took a slow breath, kind she used when pretending to be patient with me. "Your sister, Maya, needs a place to stay for a while. Maya, 22, the golden child." The sun my parents orbited around. She had been living with her boyfriend, but apparently life had other plans. She was now 8 months pregnant. I already knew that part. What I didn't know was this. She need 1 room for herself, Mom continued. 1 for the baby, and 1 for her boyfriend. Dad finished. "Elliot's moving in, too. 3 rooms, thought 3 adults, thought 1 unborn child." What they were really saying was simple. Every life in this house mattered more than mine. "But you're giving them my room?" I whispered. "It's not about rooms," Dad snapped. "Don't make this dramatic. You're 17, not a child. This arrangement is better for everyone. Everyone except me." I didn't speak. I didn't cry. I just stood there, frozen, while the truth washed over me like ice water. Okay, they hadn't woken me to discuss anything. They weren't asking. They were announcing. Mom's tone softened only slightly, as if she realized she should pretend to care. "At least on my birthday. We'll cover your expenses until you're 18. You'll be fine, Leo. This is temporary. It's not under our roof. Temporary. Under our roof. As if I were some stray they were politely ejecting from their home. Something in me cracked, then not loudly, not visibly, but quietly, like glass fracturing beneath pressure. I could feel my face settling into an expression I didn't recognize, a stillness I didn't know I was capable of. "Okay," said. It was the only thing I could think to say. They mistook my numbness for cooperation. They always mistook my silence for compliance. They didn't even mention my birthday. Not once. They helped me pack, though helped wasn't the right word. They moved quickly, impatiently, shoving my things into bags as if speeding up my exit would make it less awkward. Okay? My childhood's 17 years of memories reduced to 2 black trash bags and a few cardboard boxes. They seemed almost cheerful on the drive to Uncle Raymond's. They talked the whole way about dinner plans, about a new recipe, about how they couldn't wait to finally have the house organized again. And then God, my mother laughed. Actually laughed. She turned to Dad and said, "Now that Leo's gone, we can finally order Indian food again." Because apparently my mild food allergy had been a bigger problem than losing a child. When we reached Raymond's house, it didn't even walk me to the door. Dad slowed the car just enough for me to step out. No hug, no goodbye, not even a fake. Smiled out the car sped off before I reached the porch. Raymond opened the door before I could knock. His face softened instantly. "Leo, what happened?" His voice warm, startled. His concern hit me harder than anything my parents said, because it reminded me how long it had been since someone looked at me like I mattered. When he pulled me into a hug, I broke. All the numbness splintered, the tears came fast and uncontrollable. I couldn't stop shaking. He didn't ask again. Not yet. He just held me until I could breathe. Then, gently, tell me everything. So I did, and with every detail. His expression shifted, soft concern, tightening into disbelief, then anger, then something darker. Something protective. My uncle's soft-spoken, patient.com, Raymond snatched his phone off the counter like it personally offended him, and stormed into the next room. Seconds later, his voice exploded through the walls. He was yelling, actually yelling. I'd never heard him raise his voice before. When he returned, his face was red, jaw clenched. He sat beside me, shoulders tense, and said quietly, "Your father told me that you asked to move in. That this was your idea." My stomach dropped. He shook his head slowly, furious. "He lied to me. Leo, he lied knowing I would agree because I thought you wanted this." Then he disappeared into the kitchen and came back with a pint of Ben & Jerry's, my favorite flavor. "I'm sorry," he said, voice thick. "Should have noticed something earlier. I should have stepped in. You deserved better than this. Always have." Those words, simple, soft, human, made my chest tighten until it hurt. No one had ever said anything like that to me. Not in 17 years. And something inside me whispered, they didn't abandon you because you were unlovable. They abandoned you because they never knew how to love you. But the whisper wasn't comforting. It was devastating later. When Raymond went to take his afternoon nap, I sat on the edge of the guest bed with my phone in my hands. I stared at the blank screen. Then at my reflection in the dark glass. I looked like a ghost wearing a teenager's face. I didn't plan to post anything, but eventually, the anger crashed into me all at once. Raw, hot, uncontrollable, and I snapped. Wrote everything, every moment of favoritism, every insult, every quiet dismissal, every piece of the childhood I convinced myself was normal. And then I hit post. My hands were trembling. My heart was pounding so loudly I could feel it in my throat as soon as it went live. I turned off my phone because I was afraid. Afraid of my parents, afraid of the truth, afraid that somehow this would make everything worse, and yet unable to stop myself. I didn't turn my phone back on for an hour, and when I did, my life exploded. The post had gone viral, but not to strangers, not to random. To people online, it had gone viral within my family. Hundreds of messages, a wall of notifications, comments, missed calls, texts from cousins, aunts, distant relatives, old family friends. And at the top of the list, mom, dad, Maya. But before I could read a single line, my screen flashed again. My uncle was awake. He walked into the living room, looked at me carefully, and asked, "Leo, did you post something online?" I handed him the phone. He read everything, and then very quietly, he said, "Good." Just that one word. But it was the first time I felt like someone was truly on my side. The days that followed were a blur, strange, heavy, unreal. It felt like I had stepped out of my old life and into a different version of reality, one where people actually cared about what I felt, even if some of them only cared because they were horrified by what they'd learned. After the post went viral within my family circle, my phone lit up nonstop. It buzzed against the table like it was shaking in panic for me. I didn't open anything. Every notification felt like a threat, like a hand grabbing my throat. But the few previews I saw before the phone locked again were enough. My parents' messages were full of fire accusations, disbelief, demands. My sister's message was different. Short, quiet, asking only, "Can we talk, please?" Dozens of relatives sent messages offering support, places to stay, anything I needed. Jenna felt relieved. Instead, the sudden attention felt like a spotlight shining on a wound I'd spent years hiding. So, I put the phone face down and didn't touch it again for 2 days. Raymond didn't push me. He didn't hover. He didn't treat me like I was fragile, even though I absolutely was. Instead, he made space without saying anything, leaving extra snacks on the counter, turning on the porch light when he knew I'd sit outside, keeping the house warm. I didn't realize how much I needed that until then. By the third day, I finally felt brave enough to turn my phone back on. The first messages I opened weren't from my parents. I went straight to Maya. She had texted twice. "Maya, can we talk?" "Not by message. It's in person, Maya. I need to explain something. It's important." My stomach tightened. For years, I'd convinced myself that she was the one person in the family who wasn't cruel, just detached. I thought she tolerated me, maybe even cared a little. In the moment my parents kicked me out for her, I realized she wasn't an exception. She didn't stop them. She didn't ask questions. She didn't defend me. Her silence had spoken louder than words. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. It pulls you closer to pain even when you know better. So I called her. She answered immediately. Her voice sounded exhausted. Thin, like pregnancy had stripped her of the energy to pretend. "Leo," she breathed. "Thank you for calling. What do you want?" I asked, keeping my tone sharp to protect myself. "Okay, I want to explain things. I want to talk in person. Okay, I'm not at mom and dad's. I'm staying at Elliot's place. Can't really go out much right now. Can you come here?" I hesitated. Every part of me screamed that this was a mistake. But another part, it's a part that still wanted to believe my sister wasn't. A monster whispered, "What if she didn't know? What if she didn't want this?" "Fine," I said. "Give me the address." Elliot's apartment was small but warm, cluttered with baby boxes and soft blankets. The air scented faintly with vanilla candles. Maya sat curled on the couch, one hand resting protectively over her stomach. She looked different. Not like a golden child. Not like a villain. Just tired human. "Leo," she said softly, "sit with me." I stayed standing. She winced not from pain, but from the distance between us. "I deserve that," she whispered. "I know, but please, listen." I crossed my arms. "Explain." Her eyes filled with guilt-real guilt, the kind that makes someone shrink into themselves. "I didn't know," she said. I swear to you, I had no idea they were kicking you out. They never told me anything. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want any of it. I didn't even know you were gone until after your post. My chest tightened painfully. Maya swallowed hard. My plan was to stay with them only for a few months after the baby was born, until I recovered. Elliot and I already signed a lease for a new place. I never asked for 3 bedrooms. I never asked for you to lose yours. Her voice cracked. Leo, I'm so sorry. I knew they treated you differently. I knew they favored me. But I didn't think I didn't think they would ever do this. For the first time in my life, I saw her cry. Not dramatic tears, not showy emotion, just quiet devastation. She wiped her face. I should have defended you. I should have said something years ago, but I was a coward. They ignored you so much that I convinced myself you didn't care, that maybe you liked being left alone, but maybe it didn't hurt you the way it would hurt someone else. That's on me. I didn't speak, couldn't speak, and when they begged me to come home during my pregnancy, she continued, I let them. I didn't realize they wanted me there so badly that they would hurt you to make room. If I had known, she stopped. Voice breaking again. I would have never let them do that to you. Silence stretched between us, heavy and fragile. Finally, I sat down, not close, but close enough. Maya gave a shaky smile. I moved out a week ago, after reading your post. Mom and Dad are furious. They say I betrayed them. They keep calling me ungrateful, but I couldn't stay. Not after what they did, not after realizing I was part of the reason. She looked up at me, eyes shining with sincerity. I want to make this right, Leo. I know I can't fix everything, but I want to be your sister for real, not just in name, if you'll let me. I stared at her for a long time. I didn't forgive her out of obligation. I didn't forgive her because she cried. I forgave her because she was the first person in my biological family aside from Raymond who had ever admitted they were wrong, and that meant something. I forgive you, I said quietly. But things won't go back to normal. She nodded, accepting that without flinching. I don't want normal. I want better. Later that evening, after I returned home to Raymond's, something unexpected happened. My grandparents called. We weren't close. They lived in Arizona, only visiting during holidays. And every time they visited, my parents put on their perfect family masks, making sure there was no hint of the truth. But someone, probably a relative who saw my post, had told them everything. My grandmother's voice trembled as she spoke. Leo, sweetheart, we had no idea. If we had known, we would have taken you years ago. I felt myself sink into the couch, the warmth of their concern hitting me like a tidal wave. We're going to help fix this, my grandfather added. We already spoke to your parents. They will not come to your school again. They will not contact you without permission. A faint sense of relief washed over me, but that relief didn't last, because 3 days later, my parents showed up. Outside my school entrance, they were waiting by the gates, faces twisted with rage and desperation. Students stared. Teachers whispered. My friends circled around me like a protective shield, ready to push me away from the confrontation, but my parents shouted my name again and again, until the shame burned too hot and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I stepped forward. What do you want? Said coldly. My mother looked frantic. My father looked furious, almost unhinged. You're coming home, Dad growled. Right now. No, I said. I'm not. You don't understand, Mom snapped. She glanced around, clearly embarrassed by the audience forming. We need to talk privately. I turned to my friends. Give us a minute. When they stepped back, my parents moved in closer. Dad's voice dropped. Your grandparents found out about everything. And now our inheritance is at risk unless we reconcile with you. Mom grabbed my arm, nails digging in. We need you to come home, Leo. Just until things settle down. Pretend we're fixing things. It's not hard. I stared at them, these people who raised me, fed me, clothed me, but never loved me and felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. I don't care about your inheritance, I said. I'm not coming back. Then I walked away, leaving them shouting behind me. When I got to the bus stop, my hands were shaking so violently, I could barely text Raymond what happened. His response was immediate. Raymond, we're changing your custody. I'll call my lawyer. For the first time in my life, I felt protected. I didn't expect peace to come so quickly. Not after everything that had happened. Not after 17 years of being treated like a ghost in my own home. But once Raymond contacted his attorney, well, everything started shifting quietly. Powerfully. Like a tide turning beneath the surface, my parents still legally had rights over me. And that terrified me, because people like my parents didn't back down as not when their pride was on the line, and especially not when money was involved. They treated their reputation like oxygen. Without it, they suffocated. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one afraid. They were. The next few days were strangely calm. No unexpected visits, no screaming outside my school, no phone calls I had to block. My grandparents kept there. Word they shut my parents down hard. Raymond confirmed it one night over dinner. He set down his fork, cleared his throat, and said, So, your grandparents threatened to rewrite their will. I looked up. What does that mean? He gave a small smile, one of disbelief rather than amusement. It means your father panicked. He and your mother always thought they'd inherit a significant amount, but now your grandparents told them that unless they back off and cooperate with the custody transfer, everything goes to me. My fork slipped from my fingers. What? I whispered. Raymond shrugged lightly. I didn't ask for it. I didn't expect it. But they're furious at your parents, Leo. They're ashamed they never saw what was happening to you. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt unreal, like watching someone else's story unfold. I'd spent my childhood being invisible, and now suddenly the adults who mattered, my uncle, my grandparents, were stepping forward like shields around me. Your grandparents love you, he added gently. They felt sick when they realized how long you've been neglected. Neglected, not abused, not mistreated. Neglected, a simple word. But hearing it spoken aloud broke something open inside me, because being invisible doesn't sound painful until you realize you've lived your whole life starving for attention. You convinced yourself you didn't need. I lowered my head, blinking back tears. Raymond didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. A couple of days later, an email from my father arrived. It wasn't vicious, it wasn't insulting, it wasn't even angry. It was worse. It was manipulative. The subject line read, "You made this harder than it needed to be." Inside, he wrote, "You should have talked to us instead of posting everything online. Your grandparents would have eventually found out on their own. Now, our relatives won't speak to us. Your mother is humiliated at work. My colleagues have seen the post because someone tagged me. We are being treated unfairly because of your emotional outburst. Unfairly. As if I committed a crime against them. As if I owed them an apology for exposing the consequences of their own choices." He ended with, "Created unnecessary drama. Who could have handled this maturely?" I stared at the screen, a strange numbness crawling through me. Raymond noticed my silence. "What's wrong?" I turned the laptop toward him. His eyes darkened as he read. "He's gaslighting you," he said quietly. "They're trying to guilt you into going back because they're desperate, not because they care." I nodded, though there was a tightness in my throat I couldn't swallow. Desperate. Yes, that was the word. Not for me. For the inheritance. For appearances. For control. Never for me. Later that night, something unexpected happened. My phone buzzed. Video call request. Maya, against my better judgment. I answered. Her face filled the screen, exhausted, makeup smudged, hair tied messily on top of her head. She looked nothing like the polished golden child my parents always presented. "You okay?" she asked immediately. I almost laughed. "You're asking me that?" Ski sighed softly. "I talked to them. They're panicking, Leo. Not for the reasons they should be. They're scared of losing money, of looking bad. They still don't understand what they did." "I know," I said quietly. "They won't," she added. "People like them. They justify everything to themselves so they never have to feel guilty." I didn't respond. She continued. "Mom said you overreacted. Dad said you caused chaos. I told them they caused all of this. They didn't like that. I'm not surprised." Her voice softened. "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For finally standing up for yourself. For breaking out of their shadow. For choosing better, even when it feels painful." I swallowed hard. I didn't feel brave. I just felt done. "Done is enough," she said quietly. "Sometimes being done is the bravest thing." We talked for a long time, longer than we've talked in years. Not superficial topics, not the polite exchange siblings. Pretend counts as bonding, real things, pain, loneliness, guilt, fear, hope. She confessed she had always known our parents valued her more, but she didn't realize how deep the divide went until she read my post. Once she realized, she couldn't stay in that house anymore. "They never saw you," she whispered. "Not really. They saw a responsibility, a burden, something to manage. But not a person." Hearing her say it out loud hurt more than hearing it from anyone else. "But I see you now," she continued. "And I'm not going anywhere." I believed her. For the first time in my life, I believed my sister meant her words. 2 weeks later, everything changed. Raymond walked into the living room holding a set of documents. "They signed," he said. I sat upright. "Signed what?" He took a breath. "Not happy, not sad, just heavy. Your parents surrendered their parental rights. My world stopped, legally, officially, permanently. I no longer belong to them. I'm your guardian now," he added gently. "The paperwork is being filed with the court. You won't ever have to see them again unless you choose to." I stared at him. Stunned, I had dreamed of escaping them. I had fantasized about belonging somewhere else. But I never thought it would actually happen. Not like this. Not so completely. "I thought they'd fight," I whispered. "They would, have," he replied. "But your grandparents gave them an ultimatum." "What ultimatum?" His expression soured. "Either surrender, custody, and keep 50% of their inheritance, or fight it and lose everything." A hollow laugh escaped me before I could stop it. "They chose the money, of course," he said. "People like them always choose the money." And that's when the strangest emotion washed over me. Relief. Not joy, not yet. But relief so profound, it felt like oxygen entering my lungs for the first time in years. I was free. Truly, legally, undeniably free. But freedom isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new one, and that terrified me in its own way. As Raymond placed the papers on the table, he added, "You deserve a fresh start, Leo, and now you finally have one." I believed him, but I also knew deep down that fresh starts come with shadows, and my parents were now shadows I would spend years untangling myself from. I used to think freedom would feel like fireworks explosive. It's dazzling, not enough to drown out every memory of the past, but the truth is quieter. Freedom feels like waking up without bracing for something. It's bad to happen. It feels like breathing. without realizing you'd been holding your breath for years. After the custody transfer, life didn't suddenly become perfect. There was no magical moment where everything clicked into place. But there were small shifts, subtle, steady ones that built into something real. Raymond became more than the uncle who stepped in when everything fell apart. He became a lighthouse, steady and unshaken, someone I could rely on without fear of disappointing. He wasn't trying to replace my parents, and he never pretended to. He simply said, "I'm here, as long as you need me." And for the first time, I believed someone meant it. School felt different too. Not because people treated me like a spectacle. They didn't. At least, most didn't. My situation had spread through whispers, muted conversations, curious glances. But instead of pity, my friends offered something better. Quiet, consistent presence. They walked me to classes. They sat with me at lunch. They told stupid jokes that made me laugh, even when my chest was heavy. One afternoon, as we were leaving school, my friend Aaron nudged me. "You look different," he said. "Different how?" He studied me for a moment. Lighter, less guarded. I didn't know what to say, so he continued, "You know, you're allowed to be happy now." Happy? The word felt foreign, like something stolen from someone else's vocabulary. But maybe, just maybe it was something I could learn. If my parents noticed any of these changes, I wouldn't know. They hadn't contacted me once since the custody transfer, no emails, no calls, not even a vague attempt to manipulate me through guilt. They had signed away their rights, accepted half their inheritance, and evaporated from my life like ghosts slipping back into darkness. And I didn't miss them. Not even a little, but healing isn't a simple process. There were nights I lay awake, wondering if I had been too harsh, too public, too unforgiving. Trauma plays with your head like that tit, convinces you your pain is dramatic, inconvenient, exaggerated. Then I remembered packing my life into trash bags on my birthday, and the doubt died instantly. Some people don't deserve a second chance. Some wounds aren't meant to be reopened. I wasn't required to hurt twice, just because someone else felt uncomfortable with the consequences of their own actions. Maya stayed in touch regularly, texting, calling, sometimes sending photos of the baby clothes she bought. She didn't pressure me to bond. She didn't pretend everything was fine. Instead, she created space for us to rebuild, brick by fragile brick. A few weeks after the custody signing, she invited me to a small cafe near her new apartment. When I arrived, her face lit up, and for a moment, she looked like the sister I should have had all along. "You look good," she said, "like you're actually sleeping." I shrugged. "Raymond's place is safe. I'm glad." She hesitated before adding, "You deserve safe." Then she reached across the table, fingers trembling slightly. "I can't change the past," she said. "But I promise you something, Leo. My son is going to grow up differently. Okay. He will know how to love, how to apologize. Okay. How to take responsibility. And he'll know his uncle is one of the strongest people I've ever met." The words hit me harder than I expected. Not because they were dramatic, but because they were true in a way I hadn't realized. Strength isn't loud. It isn't angry. It isn't revenge. Sometimes strength is simply surviving long enough to build a life where you no longer have to. I didn't cry, but I came close. We talked for hours about childhood memories, about things we wished were different, about things we could change now. When we parted, I hugged her for the first time in years. It didn't erase everything, but it started something new. As for my grandparents, they kept their promise too. They sent care packages they called every week. They insisted on visiting as soon as my school break started. When they arrived, my grandmother clung to me as if she were afraid I might vanish again. My grandfather stood beside her, eyes sharp with a mixture of pride and sorrow. "You're safe now," he said softly, "and we won't let you be alone again." Those words felt like a door unlocking inside me. There was one final twist, one last ember of chaos from the life I left behind. My parents tried to reconnect with Maya. She told me about it weeks later. "They're desperate," she said, calling every day, acting like nothing's wrong, like they didn't burn the entire family down for the sake of keeping up appearances. She paused before adding, "They asked about you? What did you say?" She held my gaze, that they lost the right to know anything about you the moment they threw you out. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until my chest felt warm in a way I wasn't used to. She smiled faintly. "I'm on your side now, for good." Life with Raymond settled into a rhythm. Breakfast together in the mornings, homework at the dining table, movie nights where he let me pick the films even though my taste in horror made him flinch half the time. He didn't treat me like a guest. He treated me like family. Not the kind you endure, the kind you choose. One night, months after everything began, he knocked gently on my door. "Hey," he said softly. "Are you awake?" I answered. He stepped inside, scratching the back of his neck, his nervous habit. "I just wanted to tell you something." I closed my laptop. "What is it?" He smiled, warm and a little emotional. "Proud of you, Leo, for speaking up, for surviving that house, for choosing yourself even when it cost you everything." My throat tightened. "You didn't choose to be born into a family that didn't appreciate you," he said. "You chose to leave a situation that was killing you. That takes courage." I swallowed hard. I didn't feel courageous. "Doesn't matter," he said gently. "Courage doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on what you do." I blinked rapidly, fighting the sting behind my eyes. "And Leo," he added, voice softening. "You're home now?" Oh, something inside me broke. Then not painfully, not violently, but quietly. like a shell cracking open to make room for something. New home. Not a roof, not a bedroom, not the place where you happen to sleep. Home is where you finally stop feeling afraid. Months later, on an ordinary afternoon, I realized something. I was happy, not explosively, not constantly, not in a way that I erased everything that happened, but in a way that felt real, earned, steady. I had a guardian who cared, a sister who changed, grandparents who saw me, friends who supported me, a future that no longer felt like a punishment. That's when it truly hit me. My parents didn't break me, they freed me by casting me out. They pushed me straight into the lives of people who actually wanted me, people who fought for me, people who believed in me, people who loved me, and maybe I could learn to love myself too. This wasn't the ending of my story. It was the beginning of the life I should have had all along.